or blamed simply for seeing clearly. This one's for you. Let's begin. It starts subtly. You confront a lie. You draw a boundary. And instead of taking responsibility, they do something more calculated. They flip the story. Suddenly, you're not the one who caught the manipulation. You're too sensitive. You're misunderstanding things. You're overreacting to something that wasn't even a big deal. This tactic is not random. It's deliberate. It's not just denial. It's a strategic attempt to reverse the emotional current. You were supposed to be the observer of the problem. Now you're being positioned as the cause of it. This is psychological inversion, a form of emotional jujitsu. In Stoic terms, this is where clarity must become your armor. Let's be honest, if you're a person with a strong sense of emotional intelligence, you're especially vulnerable to this. Why? Because you're thoughtful. You don't want to judge too quickly. You give people the benefit of the doubt. You question yourself before you question others. And that's what they exploit. They weaponize your introspection. A real example. A man named David noticed a pattern in his friendship with someone he'd known for years. Every time he set a boundary, even politely, the other person would twist the situation. One time, David calmly expressed that he didn't appreciate being constantly interrupted in conversations. The response, "Wow, I didn't know you were so insecure. Are you always this controlling?" David didn't lash out, but he did second-guess himself. For days, he started wondering if he had overreacted, if he was being too much, if maybe the problem was him. That's what toxic people want, not to win an argument, but to make you doubt your own clarity. And when you fall into that trap, they win the psychological war without raising their voice. Gaslighting. Reframed in Stoic terms. The modern term is gaslighting, but the Stoics had a word for this, too: corruption of perception. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth," by which no one was ever truly harmed. This is where your strength lies, not in proving you're right, but in refusing to let others make you feel wrong for seeing clearly. Why this tactic works so well. Bad people know that you don't want to be perceived as dramatic, bitter, or unforgiving. So, they trigger that fear. They paint your clarity as paranoia. They portray your calm confrontation as aggression. They frame your self-respect as ego. It's all about flipping the social narrative, so that if you ever speak up, you'll look unstable, while they come off as just concerned or trying to help. And the more empathetic you are, the more exhausting this becomes. You start defending the truth not because it's unclear, but because you want to be understood. You want to be believed. You want to be fair. That's the bait. The Stoic response: choose truth over performance. Here's what the Stoics would say: let them talk. Let them spin their story. You don't need to defend clarity to those committed to distortion. Don't explain your philosophy. Embody it. Epictetus. The moment you stop reacting and start observing, you shift the entire power dynamic. You stop feeding their drama, and without your emotional fuel, their manipulation suffocates. This is not passivity. This is mental toughness. This is emotional self-control. This is the discipline of choosing peace over performance. Let them misunderstand you, You're not responsible for how others twist your words. You are responsible for living a life that makes the twisting obvious over time. In high-performance leadership, this is called executive clarity, the ability to stay rooted in your values, even when under attack, misunderstood, or misrepresented. It's not easy. In fact, it's painful. But as Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. You're not here to argue your integrity. You're here to live it. And when you live it consistently, you remove the need for defense. Let time do the work that words can't. This is the secret. You don't need to convince everyone. You just need to be consistent enough that those who matter will see through the noise, and those who don't, they were never on your side to begin with. So remember, when someone flips the story and turns your clarity into chaos, don't chase their approval. Don't rewrite your truth. Don't apologize for noticing what's real. You saw what you saw. You know what you know. And you don't need permission to stand in that clarity. This isn't awkward. It's calculated. After the mask falls, not everyone lashes out. Some manipulators do something far more subtle. They go quiet and act like nothing ever happened. No apology, no accountability. Just a friendly, "Hey, how've you been?" A casual like on your social media post, a seemingly innocent comment under your photo. But this is not reconciliation. It's a recon mission. This is psychological re-entry, a tactic in disguise. They're not reconnecting, they're testing. They want to know if you're still vulnerable, if your boundaries were real or just emotional outbursts. If your emotional intelligence is built on clarity or guilt, because if you respond with warmth, if you pretend alongside them that nothing happened, then they win. Not because they changed, but because you wavered. Real example. Sophia cut off communication with a colleague who repeatedly undermined her in meetings. Gaslighting. Backhanded compliments. Supplédis. She didn't explode. She simply disengaged. 3 weeks later, she got a text. Saw your post. You've been crushing it lately. So proud of you. It sounded supportive, kind, encouraging. But Sophia paused. Because there had been no acknowledgement of the harm, no repair, just an attempt to re-enter the dynamic without restoring trust. That's not friendship. That's emotional trespassing. The Stoic filter observation before engagement. Marcus Aurelius warned, the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. To the Stoic, emotional detachment isn't cruelty, it's wisdom. It means you don't slam the door, but you don't open it just because someone knocks nicely. Either you stand in the doorway, you watch, you observe actions, not just words. Why this works on empaths. Good people, people like you, want peace. You don't enjoy drama. You seek resolution, not revenge. But here's where emotional warfare slips in through the back door. The manipulator knows that your kindness can override your instincts. They know that your desire for harmony can be stronger than your memory of harm. So they lean on that. They smile. They compliment. They act normal. So you doubt the abnormality that preceded it. And if they can get you to question your boundaries, they don't need to break them. You'll open the gate yourself. Boundary reversal is a mind game. This is not peace. It's performance. A passive-aggressive form of psychological warfare. You're no longer reacting to manipulation, you're reacting to silence. And silence, when used as a tactic, can be more unsettling than confrontation. Why? Because it makes you question yourself. Am I being too cold? Maybe it wasn't that serious. Should I be the bigger person and reply, but here's the Stoic truth. Being the bigger person doesn't mean being a weaker boundary. It means protecting your mental space with the same strength you protect your physical space. Forgiveness doesn't require reunion. Here's what many confuse. You can forgive someone, release the weight, release the resentment without reinstating their access. You can move forward without circling back. You don't owe anyone your presence, especially those who used it as a playground for emotional games. This is what disciplined boundaries look like. Not cold, not cruel, just clear. Let their silence speak louder than your response. If someone returns to your life with warmth but no accountability, you don't have to meet that warmth with trust. Warmth without truth is manipulation in disguise. Seneca once said, "He who forgives without wisdom invites injury." Forgiveness is not a weakness, but blind reintegration is. Watch for repetition. Not just remorse. Real change is quiet. It's consistent. It doesn't come with emotional fireworks or perfectly worded apologies. It shows up in new patterns, new behavior, new boundaries, not new excuses. So when someone circles back into your space, don't ask yourself how nice they seem now. Ask yourself, what have they acknowledged? What have they changed? Why now? And most importantly, do I trust this? Or do I just miss the familiarity? Your sanity is not rudeness. It's protection. You're not obligated to reply to every message. You don't owe everyone closure. And silence is not a lack of strength sometimes. It's the highest form of clarity. Let your peace of mind be the line they no longer cross. Let your stillness speak. What words never could I see you? I've learned, and I'm not available for this cycle anymore. Silence isn't always peace. Sometimes it's just the sound of a weapon being sharpened in secret. When a manipulator realizes their charm no longer works, and pretending didn't bring you back, they often turn to something darker, covert sabotage. Not with confrontation, not with honesty, but with whispers. This is character assassination without fingerprints. They won't argue with you. They'll talk about you, but never where you can respond. Because their power lies not in truth, but in controlling the narrative when you're not in the room. I'm just concerned about her lately. He's been acting a little off, have you noticed? They've changed. I just hope they're okay. Sound subtle. Right, that's the point. It's not a full attack, it's erosion, one quiet drop of doubt at a time. Real example. Ethan worked at a tech startup. After months of noticing unethical behavior from his team lead, he distanced himself politely, professionally. Soon after, his co-workers grew cold. Slack messages stopped. Team lunches no longer included him. His manager casually said, "I heard you've been kind of negative lately." Everything okay. Ethan hadn't said a word, but the narrative had already moved without him. That's the cost of disengaging from a manipulator. They'll make your silence suspicious. This is reputation manipulation. In modern terms, this is reputation warfare. And it works because most people are too busy or too surface level to verify the full story. The Stoics knew this. Seneca warned, "We suffer more in imagination than in reality." The pain of being misrepresented, of having your name quietly twisted, can drive even the calmest person into defense mode, and that's exactly what the manipulator wants. Not to destroy you directly, but to bait you into destroying your own peace, trying to defend yourself. Don't fall for the reaction trap. When you sense this kind of covert sabotage, your first impulse may be to confront it. "I need to clear this up. They're lying. I have to say something. If I stay silent, won't people believe them?" But here's the Stoic truth. The more desperate you are to defend your reputation, the more power you give away. Reputation is perception. Character is reality. The manipulator is betting that you'll panic, that you'll rush to clarify, over-explain, or lash out, and in doing so, confirm the story they've planted. Don't let your consistency be louder than their words. When someone tries to define you behind your back, don't fight for the spotlight. Stand firmly in the light of your own behavior. Let your daily discipline speak. Let your calm, consistent presence contradict the gossip. Let time expose the lies you don't need to chase. This is executive mindset under pressure. The ability to lead yourself with calm when others want you to unravel. A Stoic doesn't chase narratives, they live the truth. Marcus Aurelius never obsessed over what people whispered in the Senate. He wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." So when you're being misrepresented, the Stoic response isn't passivity, it's precision. Stay centered. Stay truthful. Stay unshakable. The goal is not to look right in the moment, but to be unignorable over time. What you lose isn't always a loss. Yes, you may lose some people. Those who believe the whisper before they ask for your truth. Those who prefer gossip over character, let them go, because what you keep is infinitely more valuable. Your peace, your self-respect, your ability to sleep at night knowing you never became like them. Emotional mastery means choosing stillness over chaos. You don't need to swing back. You don't need to shout the truth. You simply need to live it. Every single day until the lies collapse under their own weight. Truth, unlike rumors, doesn't scream. It reveals itself in patterns, not performances. Let the manipulator play chess with shadows. You're building something real, solid, enduring. Let clarity be your quiet rebellion. Not all transformation is truth. Some of it is just strategy. When manipulation, silence, and sabotage no longer work, some bad people pull out their final trick. They act like they've changed. Suddenly, they're kind, supportive, self-aware. They use the same words you once begged them to understand. They mirror the growth you wanted them to choose. They finally seem like the person you hoped they could be. But here's the uncomfortable truth. It's not growth. It's bait. This is emotional mirroring, not maturity. Real change is quiet, slow, and consistent. Fake change is loud, sudden, and strategic. You'll hear things like, "I've been doing a lot of thinking lately," I know I wasn't perfect before. I've been going to therapy. I just want to be better. Sounds healing. Right. But Stoicism teaches us to observe patterns, not promises. If someone suddenly becomes reflective only after losing control over you, they're not evolving. They're recalculating. Real example. Jasmine was in a 2-year relationship with someone who dismissed her boundaries, criticized her dreams, and constantly made her feel too much. After months of emotional erosion, she left. For weeks, silence. Then came the apology. You were right. I miss your energy. I've changed. He spoke softer, sent her old quotes she liked, referred to past arguments using her words. For a moment, she believed it. But weeks later, the same behaviors returned. Supple guilt trips, dismissive tone, crossed boundaries. It hadn't been growth. It had been rehearsal. The Stoic approach clarity over hope. The hardest part of healing isn't walking away. It's not running back when they show you a version of themselves you always wished was real. The Stoics never confused sentiment with substance. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy," which means don't respond to emotional bait with emotional decisions. Don't let hope override observation. Even when someone sounds like they've changed, a Stoic watches what repeats, not what's rehearsed. Emotional discipline is not coldness, it's clarity. Just because someone uses better words doesn't mean they've become a better person. Change isn't what someone says when they want you back. Change is what someone proves when they think they've lost you for good. A person who truly transforms doesn't rush your forgiveness, doesn't pressure your trust, doesn't mirror your language just to lower your guard. They show up differently over time, not just in moments of panic. Why this works and hurts manipulators know something very human. You wanted to believe in them. You hoped they would grow. You wished your love or patience had created change. So when they return as the person you imagined they could be, it's tempting to open the door. But here's the problem. When change is real, it doesn't need to convince you. It simply continues. The Stoic test of transformation, Epictetus, taught that we must not judge character by words, but by how someone lives when no one is watching. So ask yourself, is this new behavior consistent or just convenient? Are they becoming someone better or someone more effective at pulling me back in? Are they honoring your boundaries or just trying new ways around them? The answers will rarely be loud, but they'll be there, in the rhythm of their actions. Real change doesn't demand access. If someone's growth is genuine, they'll respect your space. They'll understand your hesitation. They won't need to rush reconciliation to validate their evolution, because real growth includes accountability, not just adjustment. They'll say, I understand if you don't trust me yet. I just want to honor the way I hurt you. And then they'll give you time, not pressure. The Stoic mind chooses peace over closure. You don't have to rebuild what they broke just because they speak softly now. You're not cold for staying cautious. You're not bitter for wanting space. That's not a lack of forgiveness. That's the presence of self-respect. Seneca said, "It is the power of the mind to be unconquerable," and that includes being unconquerable by flattery, by softness, by performances of change. Let their patterns speak louder than their apologies. You don't owe anyone a second entry, just because they finally found the right script. You owe yourself peace. You owe your mind silence. You owe your spirit truth. Observe them. Wish them well. But don't let hope make decisions your reason wouldn't approve of. The most dangerous pressure is the kind that doesn't feel like pressure at all. When direct manipulation fails, when fake apologies fall flat. A toxic person doesn't always disappear. They recalibrate. They don't kick down the door. They knock softly. They test the edges. Not with anger, not with confrontation, but with harmless gestures that carry just enough familiarity to confuse your instincts. This is boundary erosion in disguise. They don't ask for forgiveness. They don't admit wrongdoing. Instead, they drop breadcrumbs, hey, just thinking about you text, a vague comment on your social media, a mutual friend saying, they were asking how you're doing. It all feels light, casual, easy to brush off. But make no mistake, this is not reconnection. It's data collection. They're gauging your response. They want to know, are you still guarded? Are you emotionally available again? Did your boundaries hold, or were they just temporary? Real example. A woman named Kayla cut ties with a former friend who repeatedly crossed lines, gossip, supple put downs, emotional guilt tripping. She stepped back, set a boundary, went silent. 3 weeks later, a message came in. This song made me think of you. Hope you're okay. It seemed innocent, kind, even. But Kayla paused. She knew there had been no ownership, nor apology, nor change. Only an attempt to nudge the door open, just a little. That's how manipulation returns, not with a bang, but with a whisper. Why subtle pressure is so effective? Because it doesn't trigger your defense system. It slips through your emotional intelligence. It appeals to your empathy, your desire to be fair, to not seem bitter, to be the bigger person. So you reply, you explain, you soften, and just like that, the cycle begins again. This is not conversation. This is re-entry by erosion. The Stoic perspective boundaries are not words, they're practices. Epictetus said, the key is to keep company only with people who uplift you, whose presence calls forth your best. But here's what Stoicism adds. A boundary isn't something you announce, it's something you live. It's not in how you talk, it's in how you don't respond, how you don't engage, how you choose stillness over sentimentality, because the strongest boundary is often made of silence, not speeches. Discipline over politeness. Let's be clear, you're not rude for protecting your energy. You're not harsh for holding the line. You're not cold for choosing your peace over their comfort. That's not cruelty. That's emotional discipline. And the Stoics lived by it. Not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. They're not reaching out, they're testing for weakness. Toxic people know how to read patterns. If guilt didn't work, they try nostalgia. If nostalgia fails, they try curiosity. And if that doesn't open the door, they send someone else to knock. Everything is a test, not of your kindness, but of your self-awareness. And once they find a crack, they exploit it. Not explosively, but gradually until you no longer remember why you closed the door in the first place. The Stoic boundary: calm, quiet, Unbreakable. A person who respects you doesn't need to test you. They don't accidentally stumble back into your life. They don't whisper through mutual friends. They ask. They own. They wait. Anything less, that's not reconnection. That's boundary negotiation disguised as friendliness. Real growth honors distance. Here's the test. If someone sends you a message and you feel pressure, not peace, that's your answer. Because healthy energy doesn't make you question your clarity. It doesn't make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. It doesn't walk back in through side doors when the front one is closed for a reason. Remember Jordan. A woman named Jordan once shared how she left a manipulative relationship. For months, she held firm. No contact, no reaction. Then came the soft re-entry, a meme, a shared memory, a mutual friend mentioning, "He misses your laugh." Jordan almost responded, not because she forgot what he'd done, but because she didn't want to seem cold. And that's how the cycle restarts. Not from weakness, but from the exploitation of your strength, your empathy, your compassion, your desire to be kind. But Stoicism reminds us, kindness doesn't mean compliance. You can care and still close the door. Let stillness be your final word. You don't have to explain your silence. You don't owe closure to those who ignored clarity. You don't need to prove you're over it. Your detachment is the proof. You are no longer reacting. You are no longer chasing. You are no longer explaining yourself to people who already knew the truth and violated it anyway. They couldn't manipulate you. They couldn't guilt you. They couldn't fake change their way back into your life. So now, they do. The only thing left. They turn your silence into a story. A twisted one, where you are no longer the clear-eyed observer. You're the unstable one. The dramatic one. The problem. This is the final play. Isolation as control. When manipulators realize they can no longer control you, they try to control how others see you. It doesn't start with slander. It starts with whispers. Quiet distortions planted behind your back. I'm just worried about them. They've changed so much lately. I tried. But they've become so distant. They paint themselves as the calm, reasonable party, and you as the unhinged one. This is psychological inversion at its highest form, emotional gaslighting, not aimed at you directly, but aimed at the people around you. It's not an attack, it's erosion. Your name doesn't get dragged through mud. It gets dissolved, drip by drip. In doubt, invite disappear. People go quiet. Even mutual friends start treating you differently. And worst of all, you begin to wonder if you've overreacted. That's the goal. Not to destroy your reputation in one blow, but to wear it down until you start questioning your reality again. Real-world example. A man named Eric cut ties with a long-time business partner after catching him funneling resources into a side hustle. Eric didn't cause a scene. He simply exited. Calm, quiet, stoic. But soon after, other team members began acting strange. Meetings happened without him. Clients stopped returning emails. Eventually, a colleague told him, "They've been saying you've been unstable lately, that you had a breakdown and needed time." None of it was true, but it was strategic. The manipulator couldn't take Eric's strength, so they attacked his credibility This is where most people break. They want to explain, they want to clarify, they want to run around putting out fires lit in the shadows. But Stoicism teaches something far more powerful. If you waste time defending your name, you've already lost the peace you were trying to protect. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The only thing worth clinging to in this life is to live truthfully and rightly, and to be patient with those who do not." That's not weakness. That's elite-level emotional intelligence. The Stoic path: integrity over image. Your job is not to control perception. Your job is to control alignment. Let people talk. Let the rumors spread. Let the performance play out. But while they build drama, you build discipline. You stay calm. You stay centered. Because in time, the contrast will speak louder than the gossip. True reputation management starts with self-validation. Your executive presence doesn't come from your title. It comes from your ability to walk into a room full of whispers and still lead with dignity. That's power. That's what makes bad people afraid. Not your words, but your clarity. Because a Stoic doesn't campaign for approval, they let their consistency write the story. You'll lose people, but not the right ones. Yes, it hurts when people believe the lies. Yes, it's lonely when the invites stop coming. Yes, it's infuriating when someone you cared for rewrites history at your expense. But here's the truth: the people you lose to gossip were never aligned with your truth to begin with. They weren't grounded. They weren't discerning. And they weren't worth the bandwidth. You didn't lose allies. You lost illusions. Real strength is measured in isolation. Anyone can appear composed when they're supported. But when you're misunderstood, misquoted, and misrepresented, and still remain grounded, you level up, not just spiritually, but strategically. Because emotional self-mastery isn't just survival. It's influence. It's the kind of leadership no one can give you and no one can take away. The end game is peace, not proof. You don't need to prove anything. Not your version of events. Not your intentions. Not your sanity. Your energy is not a debate. It's a frequency, and those who resonate with it will find you with or without an explanation. The final word, peace, is the ultimate rebellion. When a manipulator sees you're no longer reactive, that you don't need revenge, that you don't need people to pick sides, that's when they finally lose their grip. Because your silence isn't empty. It's full of conviction. Your clarity isn't cold. It's sacred. And your detachment, it's not indifference. It's power. You have nothing to prove. You are not here to perform. You are here to walk your path with grace, grit, and the kind of strength that doesn't need an audience. When a bad person realizes you're no longer reacting, no longer chasing validation, explaining your worth, or defending your sanity, they don't just lose access to you, they lose control. And that, my friend, is the final victory. You didn't need revenge. You didn't need applause. You just needed one thing: clarity. Because once you see through the manipulation, once you stop being fooled, you reclaim the most powerful thing in the world, your peace. And that peace, it doesn't beg. It doesn't argue. It doesn't try to win anyone back. It just moves forward with quiet confidence, calm energy, and an unshakable commitment to living in alignment Marcus Aurelius said it best. The best revenge is not to be like your enemy. You don't become cold. You become clear. You don't become cruel. You become free. So, if you've ever been gaslit, guilt-tripped, manipulated, or smeared, just know this: you're not crazy. You're just finally awake. And the moment you chose not to play their game was the moment you won. If this spoke to your soul, don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, subscribe to Think Stoic 101, and share it with someone who's breaking free from the games of fake people. Drop a comment below and tell us what moment made you finally walk away. Your story might be the lifeline someone else needs today. Remember, you're not here to react. You're here to rise. Stay sharp. Stay grounded. Stay stoic. And I'll see you in the next one.